Every feeling you have ever had, every moment of joy, every wave of grief, every rush of excitement, every hollow ache of loneliness, was at the same time a chemical event inside your body. That isn't a cold or reductive fact. It's one of the most liberating things you will ever understand about yourself. Because once you know how feelings are made, you stop being a passenger inside them. You become someone who can work with them. Let's start at the beginning. Inside your brain, there are roughly 86 billion neurons. Tiny electrical messengers firing signals to one another at extraordinary speed. But here's the thing about neurons that most people don't know. They don't actually touch. Between every two neurons, there is a tiny gap, a space. And what crosses that space, what carries the message from one neuron to the next, are chemicals. Neurotransmitters. Your brain's own language, written not in words but in molecules. And those molecules, in their balance, in their abundance, in their absence, determine how you feel about yourself, about others, about your life, about the future. Every mood, every decision, every relationship, every act of courage or avoidance, shaped by this chemistry. So let's meet these chemicals, not as medical terms, but as forces you already know from the inside. The first is dopamine. Dopamine is often called the reward chemical, but that's not quite right. A more precise description, dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It surges not when you get what you want, but when you expect to get it. When you see a notification, when you're about to open a gift, when you're one step away from finishing something you've been working on. That feeling of yes, I'm moving towards something good, that's dopamine. And it is extraordinarily motivating. When dopamine is balanced, you wake up with a sense that things are worth doing, that effort leads somewhere, that life has direction. When it's low, and it can become chronically low through exhaustion, disconnection, or living far from your values, the world goes flat. Nothing excites you, nothing feels worth starting. You sit in front of things you used to love and feel nothing. That flatness is not a character flaw, it is a chemical signal, and it can be changed. Dopamine rises naturally through movement, especially exercise that raises your heart rate, through completing tasks, even small ones, through learning something new, through music that genuinely moves you, through living with intention in pursuit of things you actually care about. The second is serotonin. If dopamine is about forward motion, serotonin is about inner stability. Serotonin is the quiet foundation beneath your mood. When it's present in healthy amounts, you feel a kind of background okayness, a sense that you belong, that you matter, that the world is fundamentally okay. You don't need to feel extraordinary to feel well. When serotonin is low, which happens through chronic stress, poor sleep, lack of sunlight, isolation, and sustained negative thinking, something different sets in. Not always dramatic sadness, sometimes just a persistent sense that things are wrong without being able to say exactly what. A low-grade heaviness, a difficulty finding rest even when you're tired. Serotonin is deeply tied to belonging and to sunlight. It rises naturally when you spend time in natural light, especially morning light, when you move your body, when you experience meaningful connection with other people, when you feel seen, valued, and part of something beyond yourself. This is why loneliness is not just an emotional experience, it is a biological one. Chronic isolation literally depletes the chemical that makes life feel livable. The third is noradrenaline, sometimes called norepinephrine. This is the chemical of focus and readiness. When something demands your full attention, when the stakes feel real, when you need to be sharp, when a challenge arrives that requires everything you have, noradrenaline rises. It narrows your focus, sharpens your senses, makes you present in a way that ordinary moments rarely achieve. In healthy amounts, noradrenaline is essential. It's what allows you to meet difficulty without collapsing, to step into uncertainty with capability rather than paralysis. But when it's chronically elevated, through sustained pressure, anxiety, unresolved stress, it becomes exhausting. The body cannot tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. So the person who lies awake rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet, who anticipates disaster in situations that don't warrant it, their noradrenaline is running as though the emergency is real. The cost of that over time is significant. The fourth is adrenaline, known scientifically as epinephrine. Adrenaline is your emergency system. In a moment of genuine danger, it floods the body in seconds. Heart rate accelerates, breathing deepens, muscles flood with blood. You become, briefly, capable of things you couldn't do in an ordinary moment. This is extraordinary engineering. In a true emergency, it can save your life. But here's the problem most people face in the modern world. The body's emergency system was designed for short, intense, physical threats. A predator, a fall, a sudden confrontation. Not for a difficult email, not for a social media scroll, not for a performance review that's 3 weeks away. When adrenaline fires repeatedly in response to non-physical threats, and it does, for most people, constantly, the body stays in a low-grade state of emergency. And the decisions made from that state are almost never your wisest ones. Reactive, defensive, contracted. The antidote is not suppression. It is physiological regulation, movement, breath, rest, and the deliberate return to safety inside your own nervous system. The fifth is endorphins. Endorphins are your body's natural pain relievers and pleasure amplifiers. They were designed to help the body push through physical difficulty. The runner's high is endorphins. The strange calm that can come after intense physical challenge is endorphins. The warmth that fills your chest when you laugh deeply, genuinely laugh, the kind that takes you over, is endorphins. What's significant is this: endorphins are released through shared experience. Laughter shared with another person releases more endorphins than laughter alone. Physical effort shared with others, a team, a class, a partner, produces more than solo effort. This is not an accident. The body is wired at a chemical level to reward connection. Now here is where this becomes deeply personal. When you fall in love with someone, when you feel that extraordinary rush of aliveness in another person's presence, you are experiencing a cascade of all of these chemicals at once. Dopamine surges with the anticipation of seeing them. Serotonin rises with the sense of belonging and being chosen. Noradrenaline makes their presence electrifying, a kind of focused intensity you feel in few other circumstances. Endorphins flood through moments of physical closeness, deep laughter, shared vulnerability. And binding it all together, released through touch, through eye contact sustained just a moment longer than usual, is oxytocin, the bonding chemical, the one that creates the neurological sense of this person is mine and I am theirs. This is why love is not merely poetic. It is one of the most powerful neurochemical states the human body can enter. And this is why loss is not merely emotional. When someone leaves your life, through a relationship ending, through death, through distance, through the ordinary fading of connection, your brain doesn't just process an absence. It enters a kind of withdrawal. The chemicals that flooded your system in that person's presence are no longer being triggered. The neural pathways built around them, the circuits that fired every time you thought of them, heard their name, imagined their face, continue to activate. But now they reach for something that isn't there. This is grief understood from the inside. Not weakness, not something to move through faster. A biological process of rewiring, of learning slowly to live without a presence that was written into your nervous system. And this applies not only to people. The loss of a pet, a presence that offered consistent, unconditional warmth, creates the same neurological disruption. Because what your brain had learned to expect, had organized itself around, is gone. The space left by love is the exact shape of what that love gave you chemically. It is real, it is physical. It takes time, not because you are fragile, but because the brain needs time to rebuild. What supports that rebuilding is precisely what supports all of these chemicals in the first place. Movement daily, genuine physical movement. Sunlight, especially in the morning hours. Meaningful connection, even brief, even imperfect. Rest, sleep is when the brain restores its chemical balance more than at any other time. Purpose, the sense that what you do matters, that you are moving towards something. And the practices explored in this series, of presence, of self-awareness, of living from the inside out rather than the outside in. You are not just a mind floating in a body. You are an entire ecosystem. And the remarkable thing about that ecosystem is this. It wants to come back into balance. Given the right conditions, given movement, connection, sunlight, rest, and meaning, it moves toward equilibrium on its own. You don't have to engineer it perfectly. You just have to stop working against it. In the next video, we take everything we've covered in this series, the force, the mind, the self, the purpose, the calm, and now the body, and we bring it all into one final, practical truth. The one that makes all of this livable, not just understandable. Subscribe and press the bell icon, because the final piece is the one that makes the rest of it real.